Hello everybody, Sticks here at the Token Minorities, bringing you another deck on Pokemon TCGO, and today I am bringing you a Legacy deck centered around Donphan Prime. And before I get into the deck, just a reminder that if you liked this video or found it helpful, please leave a like, drop a comment, and maybe subscribe. It helps us out a lot and lets us do more for you guys. And as for the question of the day, with the new year so nearly upon us, I decided that it would only be appropriate to go with the question, what is your New Year's resolution? I mean, that could be New Year's resolution in life, New Year's resolution with Pokemon, anything as long as it is a resolution of some sort. Overall, I would have to say my New Year's resolution would be to, just kind of the stereotypical stuff, make sure that I work out more, study harder, all of that. Just kind of generic, everybody does it. But in terms of Pokemon, I've decided that my New Year's resolution is to be luckier. Now you might ask, Sticks, how can you resolve to be that way if luck is completely RNG? Well, I actually have a theory. My theory goes that all of the bad luck that I've had in Pokemon up to this point is a result of me not consciously deciding to be lucky. All this time, I have not been thinking, you know what, I'm just going to be lucky today. So my New Year's resolution is to consciously decide to just be luckier in Pokemon, and we'll kind of maybe see how that works out for me if it doesn't work out at all, even though I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't. But either way, that's my New Year's resolution, be luckier. Tell me what your guys' is in the comments section below and why. I would love to hear them. But anyway, on to the deck. Like I said, this is centered around Donphan Prime from Heart Gold, Soul Silver, 120 HP with the Exoskeleton Pokebody. Any damage done to Donphan by attacks is reduced by 20. Now, you might be asking, well, attacks from the opponent's active Pokemon, attacks from your own Pokemon, bench damage, all of that. Well, it doesn't specify, so Donphan just takes 20 less damage from literally any attack, no matter where it is on the board. And the attack that we are focusing on with Donphan is the Earthquake attack. For 1 fighting energy, does 60. Even in the current metagame, that is an excellent attack and does a ton of damage for very cheap. But it does have the unfortunate downside of doing 10 damage to each of your benched Pokemon. Now, you don't apply weakness and resistances to bench Pokemon. Now, these guys automatically have good synergy with each other because if you have a Donphan active and a couple Donphan on the bench, you can Earthquake with complete impunity because Exoskeleton will block all of the damage, all of the bench damage from your own Earthquake, so that is pretty nice. But we're actually going to take advantage of Earthquake and use a couple Mons that rely on having damage counters on them, and that is Reshiram, Zekrom, and Kyurem. It is the I believe that's the yin-yang trio. I'm not sure exactly what that's called, but I know that that's what these guys are based around. And all of them, while they all have like this attack, like Blue Flare, Bolt Strike, and then Giga Frost for like with 2 water, 2 electric, and 2 fire. We're not worrying about that attack at all because, as you can see, we're not running any of those energy in the deck. What we are focusing on is the Outrage attack, 20 damage, plus 10 more for each damage counter on this Pokemon, while Kyurem EX has 30 plus 10 for each damage counter on this Pokemon. So really, we're just using our own Outrage to power up each of these guys' attacks, and we're using the 3 different ones in order to best combat our opponent's matchup. Like if we're against a Virizion Genesect deck, we're going to be using Reshiram. If we're against a Reshiram Typhlosion deck, we're going to be using Kyurem. And then Zekrom is just honestly a good attacker anyway, and electric typing is always something that is nice to have just in the back in case. So, yep, those are going to be the main strategy of this deck, but we are also throwing in a few more very excellent cards to help complement Donphan as best we can. The first of these guys is going to be Landorus EX. With 180 HP, so very bulky. For 1 fighting energy, does 30 and 30 to an opponent's bench Pokemon. As you can see, Earthquake isn't going to be one-shotting a lot of things, so we're going to be relying on passive damage, spread damage, all of that. Landorus helps set up the board really quickly, and if your opponent manages to retreat a heavily damaged Pokemon from Earthquakes, you can just use Hammerhead to snipe those guys out. So Landorus is phenomenal for that reason, and Landorus is really what you would consider, I guess, the big attacker of this deck. Like, Donphan's going to be hitting for 60, Mewtwo's going to be hitting for a decent amount of damage, like Mewtwo's going to be hitting for like medium amounts of damage, and then Reshiram, Zekrom, and Kyurem will be hitting for very good damage, but mostly we'll use them for weakness. But with Landorus, Land's Judgment does 80 plus 70 if you discard all fighting energy attached to Landorus. You're really never going to be using that, but that is just a big attacker in case. 90% of the time you're going to be using Hammerhead, just to get cheap damage and damage spread all the way around. Then we're running 4-4 of Phanpy and Donphan because, I mean, like I said, main attacker. 1-1-1 of Zekrom, Reshiram, and Kyurem just because, I mean, you really don't need them to be attacking all that much. They're really just kind of a come in, clean up, or come in, take a huge knockout type of thing. So you really only need one of each of these guys. And then we are also running 2 of the Mewtwo EX for the X-Ball attack. Does 20 times 24 each energy attached to this Pokemon and your opponent's active Pokemon. That way, if your opponent powers up something big that we can't one-shot with what we have, or that's going to be able to take a couple knockouts before we're able to take it out, Mewtwo can just come in, slap a DCE on it, and then take out that threat. So really, Donphan, Landorus, Mewtwo is an excellent, they all have excellent synergy with each other, that's what I'm trying to say, but the Outrage Mons are just great for covering type weakness. On to the items, we were running 1 computer search. I almost always run computer search. In fact, I think there's only been one or two decks where I haven't run computer search when I have had the ability to, and that's because it's such a phenomenal card, just being able to search out literally anything in your deck. And then we're running 3 Dual Ball. You might be asking, why not run 4, or why are we only running 3? Well, that's because this deck is so reliant on Donphan, and you can't get a Donphan with a Dual Ball. So we're also running 2 Ultra Ball just to guaranteed get something out. You can definitely tweak with this line. This was just a line that after a little bit of testing I decided to go with, but that is completely up to you. And I mean, just go nuts with it. Try it out, see what works for you. As for the next item, we are running Hypnotoxic Laser. We're running 3-2 of Laser Bank. You can definitely run like 2-3, but even without her Verbank City Gym, Hypnotoxic Laser still does really, really well, while without Hypnotoxic Laser, Verbank City Gym does not do very, very well. I don't know if I just said that correctly, but without Verbank, Laser still works. Without Laser, Verbank doesn't work. That's what I was trying to say. And so that's why I'm leaning towards a little bit heavier a line of the Hypnotoxic Lasers. And this card is essential in this deck because of not being able to really take one-hit knockouts, so we're going to be relying on passive damage and chip damage a lot of times, so Hypnotoxic Laser helps with the math a lot of times. Running 4 Junk Arm, I mean, I really don't see a reason why you wouldn't run 4. This is an absolutely incredible card. Just discard 2 cards and reuse a trainer card, well, a item card that you find in your discard pile, so that is just great for like Hypnotoxic Laser, plus power, reversal, loss remover, all of those. Speaking of loss remover, running 1 of these, it's just kind of a 1-card tech against things like Plasma, which could kind of sort of run over this deck just because their main attacker is generally Kyurem, who can do a ton of damage to Donphan and Landorus and really just give you a really hard time. So Lost Remover is kind of a 1-card tech, and combined with Junk Arm, it can really put you ahead in that matchup. Running 2+ power just to help with math in some cases. 1 Pokemon Reversal because, again, there's no Catcher or Lysander well, there's no guaranteed Catcher or Lysander effect in this game, well, apart from Red Signal, but we're obviously not running Genesect and Plasma Energy. So I threw in 1 Pokemon Reversal just to have my opponent thinking and make them think twice about putting a Pokemon down onto the bench. 2 Random Receiver to get a supporter, 1 Super Rod to throw stuff back into the deck, 2 Switch because these guys are all very heavy, so having switches can just get them out of the active if you don't want them there. 2 Ultra Ball, like I said, to pair with Dual Ball, and then 1 Chorus because, I mean, we're going to be running a pretty full bench. 90%, well, I say 90% of the time, but more often than not, we're going to be running a very full bench. So Chorus is a great way of just getting more cards and getting a huge hand if your opponent happens to have a full bench as well. But we're only running 1 because we don't want to rely on it. 3-3-3 of N Juniper and Oak's New Theory, just because this deck doesn't like discarding stuff a lot. However, Juniper is just too good of a card to forego. So, I mean, I'm running 3 Juniper, 3 Oak, and 3 N just to give me versatility in terms of how I want to draw and what I want to do to my opponent. 2 Verbank City Gym, like I said, 4 DCE because, I mean, all of these 4 run on DCE, and then 7 Fighting Energy because these guys run on Fighting Energy, although these guys in a pinch can also run on Fighting Energy as well. So I mean, yeah, that is the deck. It's a pretty straightforward idea. Just try to get as much damage out as possible with Donphan, and then snipe around with Landorus and clean up with 1 of these guys, and then if your opponent gets something big, you take it out with Mewtwo. So very straightforward. Let's just go ahead and see if we can find a couple matches with this deck. Alright. Alrighty, we have found one against Natty 16 with a Psychic and Water deck, so I'm kind of interested to see what this deck does. Do we get a call to coin flip? Do we get to go first? Yes, we do. That is, I mean, this deck doesn't necessarily mind going second just because of Mewtwo and Landorus both being able to attack turn 1. But, okay, we start with the Phanpy. You know what? That's not the worst thing in the world. I even get a dual ball and a switch so I can dual ball for like a Landorus or a Mewtwo or honestly whatever I want to get at this point. And, okay, it's a Mime Jr. What the heck? As long as put the top card of your opponent's deck in the Lost Zone. Mime Jr. is now asleep. What the heck is this? So, I mean, I honestly have zero idea what my opponent is running, and I don't intend to find out. So we do get one heads. I'm just going to go ahead and grab... Do I want to grab the Mewtwo? Yeah, let's go ahead and just grab the Mewtwo, play that down. I mean, I have the DCE, so I figured why the heck not grab the Mewtwo as opposed to the Landorus. Let's just switch the Phanpy into the Mewtwo and then laser. And also another reason I grabbed the Mewtwo instead of the Landorus is because then I can power up the Phanpy next turn. And if I had a Burbank City Gym, the game was just completely over then, but I draw literally the one supporter out of the 10 that wouldn't be good turn 1, and so I wasn't able to get much of anything. And I decided not to Colress just because, I mean, there was absolutely... There'd be nothing good from Colressing turn 1. I mean, nothing... Well, for one card. I mean, if you had 8 cards down in a Sky Field and then you Colressed for 1, then that would be worth... Then in Colressed for 8, then that would be great. But in this instance, Colressing for 1 would not be worth it. So, I mean, my opponent even plays an N, so that is completely fine with me. We do see the Crushing Hammer, gets Tails. Okay, so this looks like... Oh my gosh, this looks like a stupid Disruption deck. So my opponent is going to go ahead and switch into his Mime Jr. Gonna go for that. Gets rid of Dual Ball. I mean, that's not a huge deal. That is. And how did I draw? I just realized that I drew the Colress again off the N. Jeez. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is go into my Landorus, reversal, get Tails. Actually, if I had gotten a reversal right then and a switch or something like that, I would have completely won the game. And okay. So if I also had a laser right now, I would win the game. But, I mean, I've had many outs to win the game at this point. And Hammerhead, while it's not going to do anything to the active, I will be able to knock out the Mime Jr. on the bench. Hopefully get something to where I can get... Okay. So right now, I'm drawing half of what I need. Like, I never draw exactly what I need, and I've had 2 or 3 chances to win at this point, and I haven't drawn them. And okay, once during... Oh, so this is one of those really stupid, put everything in the Lost Zone type of decks. Got it. And I even draw a Donphan, so I mean, I can start powering that sucker up as well. I mean, I don't think I will need it at all, and my opponent's just going to go for a Slowpoke, and... I mean, honestly, this is my first time running into this deck, and I have almost zero idea what it does. I mean, I have an idea, obviously, because of playing Lost World and then putting stuff into the Lost Zone, and my opponent gets another Dual Ball. So, you know what? I'm actually okay with this. He does wake up. That is fine with me. I'm just going to go ahead and play the Donphan down, go ahead and put the Fighting Energy onto it, and then Random Receiver, see if I can get a Juniper, which is absolutely perfect. That is exactly what I want. And then if I can get a Reversal Laser, Bank, I win. And okay, I don't get any of those, so, what am I going to do? First off, I'm going to get rid of that Lost World, and then I will be able to knock out the Mime Jr., but let's go ahead and Junk Arm, get rid of the Donphan, and then probably the... do I want to get rid of the Colress? I don't know. I think... Let's go ahead and get rid of the Plus Power because I really don't think I need that. Let's go ahead and grab the switch just in case my opponent decides to Lysander something in. I mean, or not Lysander, Catcher in like the Mewtwo or something like that. Because right now Landorus needs to be my attacker to take out things like the Mime Jr. to take out the Mime Juniors on the bench before they can get going. And my opponent is going to play Rescue Scarf onto the Slowpoke, play down another Lost World, and okay, go for an Oak's New Theory. So if my opponent just gets another Mime Jr. or something like that, we do win the game. Or if he doesn't get anything at all, we do see the Crushing Hammer, gets heads. That's really annoying. But, I mean, what are you going to do? He does Dual Ball, hopefully gets 2 Tails. Ha, sucks to be you. And honestly, my opponent deserves that for running this type of deck. And yeah, I had the Fighting Energy. I just won the game. My opponent knew I had the switch in my hand from junk arming for it. And yeah, that was a very, very quick first game, not against the most competitive deck by any means, but you take what you can get in Legacy. And that was so short that, you know what, I am just going to try to find another one, hopefully a better one with this deck. Alrighty, we have found another one against Brucelati. Brucelati? I don't even know how to say it. Brucelati. I honestly have zero idea. I'm just trying to say it in different dialects, but it is not working at all because I am ridiculously Caucasian and I'm American, so I would just sound racist trying to imitate other accents, so I apologize. And it looks like my opponent's running a Resh Flosion deck, or I mean at least a fire deck. If it's a good deck, then it's going to be a Resh Flosion deck. Otherwise, I don't know what my opponent's running. I do start off with a Landorus and a Kyurem. Kyurem is going to be absolutely essential in this match because if I can get 4 damage counters on it, I will be able to just start one-shotting Reshiram and Typhlosion. And yes, indeed, this is a Resh Flosion deck. So, in order to get those 4 damage counters on them, I'm going to need a Phanpy. And so yeah, I mean, I actually have a very, very good hand. I am able to play out everything in Juniper, discarding 0 cards. Would have loved to have gotten a laser right there, but, I mean, you can't always get exactly what you want. I mean, you know what? Do I want to play the Zekrom? Yeah, I'll play the Zekrom. Just gives me another Outrager, just in case I need it or something like that. If I get enough damage counters on it with Earthquake in order for Outrage to be able to one-shot a Reshiram or something like that. So we're just going to go with it this way. My opponent does have to discard a Typhlosion turn 1, which is pretty awesome for me. Gets another Reshiram. I want to target down those Cyndaquil as soon as possible. That was something I had to learn the hard way. You need to take out the Cyndaquil as quickly as possible in this matchup because without the Cyndaquil, the Reshiram become a lot slower and they can't consistently attack, so I need to try to take out the Cyndaquils and Typhlosion. And okay, my opponent is going to get a Chorus, goes for a Hypnotoxic Laser. Oh, that's gross. So yeah, I mean, looks like the tech card, I mean, at least my opponent is running Hypnotoxic Laser as opposed to something like Crushing Hammer in the Resh Flosion deck, because, I mean, you do have a tiny bit of room to be able to use tech cards and stuff like that, and oh boy, I don't get a switch or anything like that, but at least I get a laser so I can start racking up damage on this Reshiram. I mean, my Landorus will be put in a little bit of danger, but I mean, should be okay. I'm gonna go start racking up damage on the Cyndaquil, I guess. I don't know, there's really 30 damage is good, but if it's just going to evolve, then it's a little bit of a waste, but at least it'll put it in better range of, like, Earthquake or something next turn or later on in the game. And my opponent, okay, will be able to Outrage this turn for a good amount of damage. Ooh, gets a Silver Bangle. He'll be able to, I think he'll be able to knock me out in conjunction with Poison, so that's very unfortunate. My opponent will be able to take a good prize lead immediately. But, I mean, there's nothing I can do about that. I draw pretty decently. That's actually that's a very solid draw. And then with the Poison, yes, I will get knocked out, so that is very, very unfortunate. I wish... you know what? I mean, there's nothing I could have done about that. That was just a very good play by my opponent's part at that point, being able to draw into whatever he needed to get that out. And then, okay, I'm going to go ahead and play Phanpy and Landorus down. If I can get... Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and Dual Ball, just thin my deck a little bit, and then go ahead and Chorus. What I could have done, I don't know, I just kind of wanted to get rid of this. Oh man. So let's go ahead and evolve into Donphan, play the Fighting Energy onto that guy, get more stuff out, and then just Earthquake, knock out the Reshiram, start getting damage onto my Kyurem, and oh man, that was a big mistake on my part. I just completely realized a big play that I missed, because what I should have 100% done was play the Fighting Energy onto my Landorus on the bench and then switch into it, because the Hammerhead would have not only knocked out the Reshiram, but would have knocked out the Cyndaquil on the bench as well, limiting him to only one Cyndaquil active. So that was a huge mistake on my part. I can't believe... Wow. That was a big mistake. I will completely admit that was a huge mistake. And okay, so my opponent does just go ahead and put an energy in pass, so what I can do is reversal in, maybe? Nope, never mind. Play the DCE onto So, I don't know. At this point, I honestly don't know what to go for, because if I can get the Reshiram out of the way immediately and my opponent doesn't have one out, then that is just completely fine with me. I am just going to go ahead and grab a Mewtwo, because I don't really need anything, and plus I wanted to discard with the computer search, so I will just computer search for a Juniper, go ahead and Super Rod back in the Mewtwo, the Landorus, the Phanpy, and the Fighting Energy, and then go for a Juniper to get 7 more cards. And I mean, once again, I could have done that Landorus play again, which, I mean, I don't know. I'm kind of torn on that play. I think it's overall the better play, but at this point, I just want to get those Reshiram out of the way as quickly as possible and get a Kyurem powered up, because once I get the Kyurem powered up, I just win. I mean, Kyurem should be able to run through him very, very quickly. And also, you saw right there the synergy with the Donphans and the Exoskeleton. So, I don't know. That's just, there were 2 ways that I could have gone about it. I don't think either play was a bad play, but I do think that, I think that the taking out the Cyndaquil on the bench would have been the superior play. I think that would have been the better play. I mean, I'm still in a very good position, don't get me wrong, because my opponent has no Typhlosions in play yet, and I'm about to take out a second Reshiram. So as soon as I can take out those guys, then I will just win. And if I'm able to just eliminate all the Reshirams, like I said, I will just win. And oh, my opponent's running Enhanced Hammer too. Oh, I hate that. I hate this type of person. Oh my gosh. So he found room for lasers and Enhanced Hammer in a deck. I mean, that's why your deck's so clunky, dude. It's because you're running all these stupid tech cards that really just kind of ignore consistency and are just, I don't know. I give up trying to understand why people give up consistency a lot of times. Because, you know, 1-card tech I can understand. Like, a single copy of Enhanced Hammer or Lost Remover I can understand. But otherwise, I just really have no idea. And my opponent is escape roping. I don't know what that really did. Because, I mean, he's going into his Typhlosion and just retreating back. So I honestly have 0 idea what that did. He will be able to Afterburner onto the Reshiram. Puts more damage on it, but Blue Flare will not be able to knock me out. Yeah, because, I mean, because of the Exoskeleton. And what I'm going to do is just power up Donphan. Because, I mean, if I can just keep trading Donphans for Reshirams, then I will win. So I think that's going to be my plan of action at this point. I'm going to dual ball just to get that card. I mean, I have had 0 reason to... I had 0 need for anything else. I was just playing that card to try to get rid of it. And then let's go for an Earthquake, knock out the Reshiram, power up the Kyurem just a little bit more. And yeah, now we're even in prize cards, but I am ahead in terms of board state just because I have 3 Donphan set up. My opponent will be able to knock out this Donphan this turn with... Actually, if he gets a double Afterburner onto a Reshiram, he will be able to knock me out with an Outrage. And okay, so he does get a Reshiram, so it's a bit unfortunate. He will be able to knock out this Donphan, well, especially with the double Typhlosion. So I'm regretting my play earlier of not taking out the Cyndaquil when I had the chance, because 2 Typhlosions is all you really need in a Reshflosion deck to get everything powered up that you need powered up, because all you need is the 2 energy from Afterburner and then a manual attachment. So yeah, I'm regretting not taking out that Cyndaquil earlier, but I mean, that was me being indecisive and not being as familiar with this matchup as I could be, because like I've said before, I play a ton of different decks and I try to bring you guys very different decks every single week. So as a result, I'm not able to get as comfortable and familiar with the matchups of every single deck and how to use it. So that was just my inexperience coming into play right there, not taking out a Cyndaquil when I had the chance. So it's a bit unfortunate, but I still think I'm in a decent spot just because, I mean, I have the Donphans, I have a Kyurem. I mean, I think I'm still fine. I really think I am, because now I can just promote another Donphan, and then... I mean, I have a Phanpy even, so let's go ahead and play that guy down. I mean, like I said, as long as I can keep trading Donphans for Reshirams, I will win. And then just go for an Earthquake. I wish I had a Hypnotoxic Laser, but that is just fine with me. I need to get this Kyurem as powered up as possible. Next turn, I will be able to one-shot this Reshiram with an Earthquake. And my opponent... I don't think there's any way he can knock out this Donphan in one hit with his current Reshiram, so I think I'm still in a decent spot, and then I can power up Landorus or Kyurem or whatever. I drew the Juniper. I was about to say I know I drawed the Juniper. I is good at English. I know I drew the Juniper, but I had so much energy in my hand that I want that I decided not to get rid of it. And okay, my opponent is just going to Oak's New Theory, get 6 cards. He's probably going to be able to get the Reshiram on the bench powered up, but that is completely fine with me because once I take this Reshiram out, I've already taken out 2 of them. Once I take this Reshiram out, I will be able to slap the DCE onto the Kyurem, and when he inevitably knocks out my Donphan with his other Reshiram, I'll be able to Outrage, knock out my opponent's last Reshiram, and then that'll be pretty much it. So my opponent does just go ahead, go for the Outrage. That is fine with me. What I am going to go ahead and do, I think, is, well, first off, random receiver, see if I can get an Oak. That is great. And then go ahead and play the DCE onto the Kyurem. Go ahead and Oak, put the stuff back into my deck and draw 6 new cards, see if it's something I can work with. And I get a plus power. That's not particularly useful in this instance. If I had like a laser earlier, then that might have come into play. But I am just going to go ahead and... yeah, I will be able to take the knockout. And I wish... yeah, I can't do any shenanigans with Hammerhead, mostly because I've already attached energy for the turn. And then I'm just going to go ahead, knock out the Reshiram. Yes, it will put my Kyurem in range. Okay, so my Kyurem is now 10 damage away from being in range of a Blue Flare knockout. So I have to be a little bit wary of that, and I'd kind of like to attack with my Kyurem pretty soon, but otherwise it's not a huge deal. And my opponent does have the Reshiram, and he does Catcher. So what does he Catcher in? Nothing. Okay, good. Double Catcher. What is he? Okay, so I'm glad my opponent didn't get at either of those, because that might have set me back a little bit, especially if he had like Catchered in the Landorus or something like that. Throws the Floatstone onto the other Typhlosion, is just going to go ahead and Skyla. I'm not sure what he's going to Skyla for. What could he Skyla for in this instance? And oh my god, why are you running 2 Enhanced Hammers? That is ridiculous, dude. Come on now. Okay, I mean, admittedly, that frustrates me, because, I mean, a 1 of I can live with. A 1 of I can live with, I'll say, okay, whatever. I'll brush that off. But, I mean, if you're running 2 Enhanced Hammer in this clunky of a deck, I honestly think that is complete... I honestly think that's stupid. I think if you're running 2 of those tech cards in addition to Laser Bank in a deck that's already as clunky as that, I honestly think that is just stupid. I'm sorry, but that's... I don't know, that's just me. I think that is a very, very dumb thing to do. So what I am going to go ahead and do is Junk Arm, get rid of the plus power, and the whatchamacallit. To grab a Computer Search, go ahead and get rid of the Verbank and the Landorus to grab a DCE, and... oh my gosh, 2 DCE are prized. Are you freaking kidding me right now? This is ridiculous. Oh, that is so frustrating. Oh my god. So what I have to do, I mean, I would have been able to take a knockout on this Reshiram and essentially just end the game for my opponent, but because he not only plays 2 copies of Enhanced Hammer in his deck, but also manages to get lucky enough to have half my DCEs prized, and I mean, there's nothing I can do about that. That is ridiculously stupid. So I'm frustrated. I'm very frustrated by that. But what I am going to have to do is just go for an Earthquake, put my Kyurem in range of a Blue Flare, which it was not before, but because both half my DCEs are prized and my opponent runs 2 Enhanced Hammer in a deck that does not have room for 2 Enhanced Hammer, as well as running Laser Bank, I'm in a bad position. So, I mean, that frustrates me when bad choices work out for my opponent, but, I mean, it happens. My opponent is just going to Seeker. What's he picking up? Why would you Seeker in this instance? One thing that is nice, though, is that I will be able to knock out my opponent's Reshiram coming into my turn. And I actually, despite that, I think I'm in a position to win. I really do, because the Reshiram will get knocked out coming into my turn. I will pretty much guaranteed be able to draw into a Fighting Energy or something like that to be able to Outrage with my Kyurem. And at that point, he'll have to either promote the Reshiram on the bench or one of his 2 Typhlosions. Either way, he will not be able to. Go for a blue flare next turn. So I think, well, I guess he could potentially if he has an energy in his hand. But what I am going to do is promote the Kyurem. I mean, I have to take a prize, and then I need a fighting energy off of something. I just need a regular fighting energy. I get a dual ball. I can end for 2. I can play out my hand enough to where I can end for 2 and put my opponent down to 1 and just hope he doesn't draw a regular fire energy, because what I'm going to be able to do this turn is knock out his Reshiram or one of his Typhlosions. If he knocks out his Reshiram, I just win because his Typhlosions cannot knock me out. If he promotes a Typhlosion, then I have to hope that he doesn't draw a basic fire energy, which at this point, I hope he's gone through enough of them to where he isn't able to draw one, because if he does, then I just win. And my opponent is taking... I mean, I can understand why he's taking a pretty long time to decide which of those guys to bring in. I'm still frustrated that my last 2 prizes are my DCEs. So, I mean, there's nothing I can do about that, and oh my god. Of course. Of frickin' course. I love TCGO. I really do love it. I mean, it's fantastic. I love TCGO and how it consistently kicks you off. Especially in this instance when I'm trying to record and I'm having such a good match with my opponent, then that's just kind of salt in the wound at that point. So, yeah, sorry about that, guys. I mean, regardless, I was able to show off the deck and how it's supposed to work. And while I did get very unlucky in that last match, I was still in a position to win. And I mean, honestly, we can't tell just because we weren't able to finish the match thanks to TCGO kicking me off. So thank you guys so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all of that stuff. Tell TCGO to get their act together. And this is Styx signing out. Why not? See you guys.